Welcome to Standard 8D. The goal of this standard is to explain events related to the unification of Germany and specifically the role of a guy named Otto von Bismarck. By unification, we're talking about the process of bringing separate pieces together into one large piece. The essential question we're trying to answer in this standard is, what role did Otto von Bismarck play in the unification of Germany? So in other words, if you're asked a question on a test about Bismarck specifically and what his role was in bringing many tiny German states together to form modern-day Germany, these are some of the things we'd want to be able to talk about. Some essential understanding to help us with this question is the Germany that we know today is a relatively recent development. Germany becomes a nation state long after much of the rest of Western Europe. Countries like Spain, France, England, those have been countries for many, many centuries. Germany, though, is a fairly recent development. You wouldn't see Germany on a map 500 years ago the same way as you would see Spain, France, England. It's a much more recent development, and a guy named Bismarck is largely responsible for that occurrence in the late 1800s. Okay, by nation state, just a fancy term here for a country. Germany became a country long after the rest of Western Europe. Okay, we see this shown on this map here. Again, we see the countries of Western Europe, France, Spain, Portugal, Great Britain, on this map of Europe in 1815. But in this area where we would expect to see Germany on a map of Europe today, we instead see a lot of little states. Okay, we don't see the word Germany or anything resembling modern-day Germany on this map. Going all the way back to 500 years ago, around the year 1500, we see Germany here divided up into hundreds of little tiny states. Keep in mind, modern-day Germany is roughly the size of Texas. So picture Texas divided up into over 300 little states, and imagine how tiny each of those on average would be. We fast forward almost 150 years, end of the 30 Years' War, Germany is divided up into over 300 states by the Peace of Westphalia, with the intention of keeping what at the time was known as the Holy Roman Empire. Much of modern-day Germany was the Holy Roman Empire. The intention here was to keep it very weak. Okay, located in the center of Europe, they really didn't want to see a very strong state here. But that's not going to stop nationalists in the 1800s from unifying these little states into one big country, unified country of Germany. The 1800s was a period throughout Europe of intense nationalism, people feeling great pride and love for their culture. Germans were no exception. This famous castle built in Germany, castle, I mess up the pronunciation, Neuschwanstein, was built to look like a medieval castle, but it was built in the late 1800s to try and capture kind of a German architectural style and very Germanic scene here. You may be familiar with Grimm's fairy tales. A lot of the fairy tales you were told as a child, written by the German brothers, the Grimm brothers, they were really a collection of German folk tales, trying to create a common German literature. The music of Richard Wagner was another example seen as trying to create a Germanic musical style. So all of this going on in the 1800s as German nationalists strive to create this sense of unity and bring together modern-day Germany. Okay, so the essential knowledge for this standard, we want to know these facts about the unification of Germany and specifically the role of Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck was the leader of one of these German states known as Prussia, and he's really going to be the key central figure in the unification of Germany. We see Bismarck here in this picture. And Prussia, as we see on this map, it was one of these German states that we saw on the earlier map, located way out here in eastern Germany. Okay, in fact, almost out into what's now Poland. And from way out there on the sort of fringe of Germany, that one state over about 100 to 200 years is going to grow in size and influence, and by the mid-1800s it's the dominant state among these many German states. And with Bismarck at the leadership position of Prussia, with the goal of unifying all of these little states into one powerful German state, Prussia is going to take the lead in the unification of these German states into Germany. Okay, Bismarck goes about unifying these German states through really two means. He's not afraid to use war. Okay, Prussia developed a very strong military. It was one of the most feared and most powerful militaries in all of Europe. And Bismarck used that military strength to threaten and in some cases actually militarily conquer areas, German states that he wanted part of Germany. If it didn't take war, though, Bismarck was also a skilled diplomat and could appeal to feelings of nationalism. He could kind of talk to the leaders of these German states and also kind of take off the military hat and just diplomatically, through appealing to nationalism, get these German states to join. Okay, to combine this policy, these tactics are known collectively as blood and iron. Okay, kind of appealing to German nationalism, the potential for German economic power in iron, but also blood, military means if needed. Okay, these tactics are known as realpolitik or realpolitik. Bismarck is synonymous with this word. If you see it on a test, it can really only mean Bismarck. Bismarck, in ways you can compare to Machiavelli in your World I course that you learned about. And realpolitik is an idea that all means are justified to achieve and hold power. In Bismarck's mind, increasing the power of the German people, unifying the German states into a powerful Germany, was a good goal. And therefore, if it meant declaring war, if it meant being deceitful or lying to get what he needed done, realpolitik says that's justified. You don't always need to be nice in the case of Bismarck, as long as the goal in his mind was a noble one, was a good one. Okay, so we want to associate that term realpolitik. In terms of the picture here, Bismarck, if he needed to wear the crazy Prussian military helmet with the point on top, he would do it. Okay, if he could get away with this hat, a little less warlike, he would do that as well. Whatever means it took, he would do. Okay, got our numbers mixed up here. Apologies for that. The Franco-Prussian War was an example of this. And the Franco-Prussian War really is what leads to the creation of a German state. Okay, we see in the picture here Prussian soldiers on the battlefield. Bismarck felt the need to go to war. Franco in this case means France. And so a war against France, Prussia against France in the 1870s was really the event that finally brings all the German states together. We can see on this map here, the large dark purple area was Prussia going into the 1870s. The lighter purple areas are areas that Bismarck had gotten to join the German Confederation. Okay, the states were kind of joining together and were known as the German Empire by 1870, but that area in the red circle, right there on the border of France, an area known as Alsace and Lorraine, these areas remained outside of Bismarck's control. Okay, and Bismarck trying to think these are German people, German speakers, they belong to Germany. How do I get them to join? And in Bismarck's mind, the way to get them to join was to declare war on France. And by going to war against France, Alsace and Lorraine kind of caught in the middle. They're going to side with Germany. Germany defeats France in this war, and these areas join into what's now Germany. Germany's borders will change a little bit after World War I and World War II, but Germany as we know it appears on the map as a result of Bismarck. And that concludes what we need to know for Standard 8D.